Hey guys, men's dating coach HarryWilmington here, founder of IntrovertDatingSuccess.com. And on today's show, we're going to be talking about sexual polarity. Specifically, we're going to talk about what it is, why it's important, and the 10 ways that you can increase your sexual polarity with a woman to ensure that she has a very strong and desirable sexual attraction towards you. If you're watching this on YouTube, hit that subscribe button and the bell icon to be notified of when I post up new videos. Okay, so before we get into it real quick, I want to remind you, if you're watching this on the day I'm putting it out, which is January 11th, on January 12th, I'll be holding a webinar that's talking about the 5 online dating hacks that I learned while posing as a woman online. And for those of you guys that are wondering why you're struggling or what things you need to be doing in your profiles or in your conversations with women to attract them better, this is the webinar to join. If you're interested, go to the website, to the first page. You can sign up for it, and it'll be out tomorrow. Well, it'll be a live webinar at 4 p.m. on Tuesday, January 12th. If you're watching this after that, I'm going to be holding more webinars and putting together more video programs for you to check out. So go to the website anyway to check out the programs that we have, check out some of my eBooks and stuff like that. Also, for this new year, I have joined the app Clubhouse, and I'm going to start holding things on Clubhouse soon that talk about just dating in general and helping men and stuff out. So if you're interested in that kind of content and you want to be able to actually have a fuller group conversation, one-on-one, or not one-on-one, but a group conversation with me and other people, then go to Clubhouse and look up Harry Wilmington. It's a very easy name to find on there, and you can follow me so that way you'll be notified of when I am putting out various topics of conversation to have on Clubhouse. Also, be sure to join me on YouTube. Again, you can type in Harry Wilmington on YouTube and you will find me. Be sure to subscribe. Thank you guys. I have over 100 subscribers now, and I could not be happier. I'm going to be putting out more videos on the YouTube platform. So I'm still doing these podcasts every Monday and Thursday, but for extra stuff, it'll be on my YouTube page for now. So be sure to check that out. But anyway, so I want to talk today, though, about sexual polarity. Now, I don't know at times how I come across these various topics. I spend part of my day doing research for topics to come up with about the show. And sometimes I look up things that are relationship-based or sex-based or whatever. And I came across an interesting concept that I had not really considered before. But in terms of my own dating life, I recognized that as I was able to become better at this particular thing, more women were attracted to me in a physical way versus just the buddy-buddy way. And it's a concept called sexual polarity. So I took a few notes. I want to talk to you guys about what sexual polarity is first, so we kind of get an idea of where we're coming from, and then we'll go into why it's important and things that you can do to start displaying more of those masculine things that are going to attract a more feminine woman if that's what you're looking for. So, for starters, sexual polarity is a primary sexual essence in the way that we orient to life and relationships, i.e. your sexual core. So basically, think of like there's a spectrum, okay? So look at one side as being an inherently masculine side and one side as being an inherently feminine side. Now, I want to preface this by saying that I know some of you will watch this and say, for those of you that are of the new age that go through the whole gender fluidity thing and whatnot, this has nothing to do with your genitalia, okay? It's an essence of femininity and masculinity. And as it pertains to sex in particular, it's an important thing to recognize as an actual thing, because in all relationship dynamics that are of a sexual nature, there is typically one that is traditionally known as feminine and one that is traditionally known as masculine, meaning either set as displaying qualities that are on some end of the masculine or feminine scale. And in people in general, we typically have a balance of that. So for example, as a man, I might be a man that has an essence that displays 70 to 80% of masculinity and has 20 to 30% of feminine essence, okay? And this is true, like I said, of relationships, whether it's a straight relationship, whether they're gay relationships, whether they're lesbian relationships. If you'll notice, even in the homosexual relationships, there's usually, if there's 2 guys, there's usually one that typically displays what we would consider more feminine qualities versus the other one that has more masculine. And same is true of lesbian relationships, where one woman is typically seen as like, insultingly, they're called butch, although I don't know if they still call themselves that or not, but there's one that's typically showing off more masculine qualities and one that is displaying more feminine qualities. So that's true in most relationships in general. If you want to get into the particulars of, again, gender fluidity and stuff like that, that's for another conversation, but I'm going about the overall aspect of society, okay? So that's important to know, though, because in terms of sexually attracting somebody, what researchers have discovered is that there's a stronger pull to people in a physical realm whereby one has more masculine energy being displayed and one has more feminine energy being displayed. So for you guys that have maybe been struggling for a while with, you're trying to get with women and you're trying to be like a very, very nice guy, or you're trying to over talk in conversations with women about your emotions and feelings, you got to understand what that is actually displaying to a woman. So for a woman that is in her feminine, if you were coming to her displaying a high number of feminine traits and qualities, then she might relate to you on a friendship level, but in terms of the sexual polarity of your guys' relationship, she's probably not going to feel sexual feelings for you, because if your feminine energy is matching her feminine energy, then that's not something that she can now be attracted to, because a feminine woman that is mostly in her feminine is going to look for a man that is mostly in his masculine. As I was doing my research, I found a really good list of what could be considered to be masculine defining qualities and what could be considered to be feminine defining qualities. So I'll just read over those briefly. So masculine essential qualities include things such as initiatory, meaning being the one to seek out and to start something. It means a person seeking freedom, somebody that has a desire to complete missions or a sense of purpose. Competitiveness, which in the masculine case means growth through challenges. Evolving or living on the edge, and decisiveness and directness. So in other words, a person that is a leader, a person that can make a decision, can give directions, and is somebody that can be followed and trusted to do that, okay? Now, on the other end of the spectrum, you have what's considered feminine essence qualities. So it says feminine essential qualities include receptiveness, seeking love, a desire for intimacy or a sense of connection, radiance and beautifying or growth through praise and support, caring or nurturing life, and flowing and unpredictableness, okay? So this is why, so just that last part, for example, this is why women are oftentimes, they can be unpredictable in the sense that they don't always necessarily know what they're going to feel or what's going to happen when, and if it happens. But men typically, ones that are trying to show masculine essence, kind of are, in terms of their emotional state, aren't really unpredictable. Their views are very much like, this is just an even path of how I feel about things. They have a head on their shoulders that allows them to be able to make decisions in the moment without having to worry about all these other elements. And so you got to understand that it's very, very important to note these different qualities, because I think a lot of times men will think, okay, in order for women to like me, I need to, do these various things, such as, for example, we'll go back to the feminine essence. So guys will do things like try to say, well, I'm seeking out love or relationship. And, I want to be able to have a connection with somebody. And I want to, be able to nurture and care for the woman. And he's thinking that those are positive things. And that's not that they're bad for a man to do. But as he's displaying them, he's now displaying feminine essence qualities that women are looking at and seeing as, oh, that's a nice thing for him to do, but it's not turning me on. And so, the last part of this I'll read specifically from the site that I went to, and I'll leave the site for those of you that are on my YouTube page. I'll leave the link to the site where I got all this some of the stuff from. But a really important paragraph they had was the sexual polarity often gets dampened in longer term relationships, primarily due to lack of awareness amongst the couple of the energetic polarity dynamic, as well as how to cultivate it and turn it on. In other words, because I do research on this stuff all the time, so I'm always very, very aware of the dynamics of things and what would be a more considered masculine thing to display versus the feminine thing. But most people aren't doing research like this and aren't really living their lives knowing this stuff. So they get into a relationship with a woman, and then she starts becoming unhappy with the relationship, for example. So he starts trying to do all these things that are going to be showing less aggression and less testosterone and being more feminine wise. And neither person can explain why the woman's suddenly being turned off. Or the opposite happens where a woman starts being more in her masculine and starts giving too many orders to the guy and starts bossing him around. And now she can't understand why he's suddenly losing interest also. Okay. So it's a very important thing that if you understand and recognize that it exists, it'll allow you to better navigate not only the dynamic of your relationship, but also the dynamics of the sexual stuff that's going on. Continuing, says, the open-hearted love may be strong and the couple may play house well together, but if they want a dynamic, thriving relationship, it is important to be aware of and cultivate an arc of sexual attraction created by masculine and feminine polarities. The take-home message is that two polarizing opposite energies, in addition to a loving heart connection and emotional intimacy, are needed to create the passionate energy of sexual polarity attraction in any romantic relationship. Now, here's another interesting thing I read, okay? So, like I said, there's two sides. We have the masculine side, the feminine side, and then there's like that middle ground where it's kind of like even split, okay? What they found in the research, though, which I found interesting, was this, that let's say you have a highly masculine presence and she has a highly feminine presence. So both of you guys are at the far end of the spectrum of this, okay? What can happen is your sexual polarity is off the charts, but your ability to connect with that person and actually talk with them and build a bond through emotions or whatever else could be done is not going to be as able to happen, okay? Because there's so much on the attraction side of things that you really don't, you kind of like, you're looking at that all the time because you're supercharged for the physical stuff, but you don't have the means to temper that down to really build upon a conversation and to build upon like hanging out with each other without that being there. Conversely, they found that people that are more close to the range, like let's say the woman you're talking to is, we'll say, 60% feminine, but 40% masculine energy, and you coming into it are 60% masculine energy and 40% feminine energy, it's so close to each other in terms of their polarity that that's where you're more likely to have that woman say, I view you as more like a friend than actually being attracted to you in a sexual realm, because it's too close in terms of your ratios of each other's feminine to masculine quotients, okay? So they say the good balance is typically if a man is between like 70 to 80, 85% in his masculine and the woman is the same in her feminine. That way you guys can, be sexually attracted, but also be able to tone it down a bit to be able to actually talk, hang out, talk about how your lives are going to go together and stuff like that, okay? So I found all this stuff very, very fascinating because the idea of sexual polarity and even like looking back at some of the women that in the past I had crushes on back in my like 20s, that if I'm looking back, I'm realizing like, oh crap, I was putting out too much feminine energy unbeknownst to me, that it was just naturally by nature of how they were. If they were a more feminine woman, they weren't going to be attracted to that. And so once I was able to recognize that it's actually okay for me to have my masculine qualities and then actually display them without fear of punishment, and that I was actually going to benefit more from that, that's when I was able to live more of my masculine energy and be able to have great results dating. So for those of you guys that have been struggling with that, or have been, have taken on this idea that some of the feminine ideals out there as to what should work in a relationship that aren't actually working are things that you've been doing, and you've been feeling that there's kind of like a threat there if you try to be in your masculine, I want to assure you that that's not true. And I want to give you 10 things that you can start doing to be able to start getting more into your masculine so it becomes more of a natural part of you than feeling like it's a bad thing. So the first thing I put here is workout. Like, working out actually will improve and increase your testosterone levels, and will, just by the nature of working out, you're lifting weights, you're pushing things, you're running, you're jogging, you're putting energy out there that is fueling and is allowing you to, like I say, increase your testosterone and get some of that masculine energy. For women that are watching this, if you're working out, this does not mean that you are now building up your masculine energy, but this is specifically for men. It can in fact improve testosterone, which leads to actually point number 2 is get to a healthy weight, because having excessive fat in your body, it can actually add more estrogen to you. So if you're a guy that's trying to be more as masculine, your weight might actually be playing a large part in, your emotions, your hormones, and how you are acting in the world to women, which you may not realize. So you may actually be taking on feminine qualities or doing feminine things simply because your hormones are out of whack because of all this weight that is on your body. And I will say this, I've recently actually been on my own weight loss journey, believe it or not. At the beginning of December, I weighed 192.3 pounds, which for my frame and for my age and my whatever should not, it was over the weight that I should be. I should be in the range of like 174 to like 150 something or whatever, okay? But as I got to that higher weight, which, On my frame, it doesn't look like a lot, but I could tell internally that I was already starting to feel some kind of way. I found that in terms of my bedroom performance, it wasn't as strong as it could have been. I definitely felt that there were more days where I was feeling more down and out than others. And it was like, oh, this stuff's really affecting my hormones and how I act. And if I'm going to try to be a guy that's a leader and that's going to be able to take charge in the bedroom, specifically as it pertains to this episode about having sexual polarity, if I'm trying to bring that sexual game, but this weight's on me and I'm now feeling less than masculine about myself as a result of that, and I'm feeling, more tiredness and fatigue in the bedroom, and I'm not being able to stay up as long or as strong, then those are things that you have to take into account. Like, oh, maybe that's why I'm not able to be in that frame of mind. And since I've lost that weight, like I lost 20 pounds in 6 weeks, and now I'm back to feeling like my normal self and be able to perform in the bedroom a lot better. And it's simply because I recognize that was a big part of what was taking away some of that energy and some of that essence. Okay. So that's number 2. Number 3, do not be afraid to show a woman that you see her as a sexual being. And this is definitely true for you guys out there that are nice guys or they're introverts that you don't want to, you're so in your head about when you talk to a woman that you don't want to mess it up, is that we start trying to hide the fact that we are attracted or have a sexual interest in the women we're around. Because we're thinking if they know that, they're going to think that we're just about sex. Understand, guys, women, when they get horny, are far more sexual than you probably ever will be. Just because we put it out there more doesn't mean that women don't want it. But don't be fooled into thinking that if you don't ever show it, that you're going to be able to get some, because women need to know that you find them sexually attractive. In fact, they're looking for the man initially to put out those kind of vibes that indicate that, hey, if we were to go alone in a room together, I probably want to do some stuff to you. And that doesn't mean you have to go around and like parade that around. But if you were on a date with a woman that's already agreed to see you, you putting out some sexual innuendos or hinting at things is perfectly fine, because she's actually going to want to feel that from you. So that way she knows that you find her as a woman attractive in her feminine, and you're doing things now and saying things that let her know in your masculine way that you would totally take her. Okay? Which leads to number 4, actually, which is learn to be okay with physically dominating. And I say this because there are so many guys that are actually legit in sexual relationships with women whereby they're treating her gently all the time. And most women, while they are cool with that, there's also a side of them that wants to feel your male aggression in a positive way in the bedroom. They want to feel you pinning her against the bedroom, against the bed. They want to feel you being able to carry her and to dominate over her and to be on top of her and to be able to thrust into her. And all these things are displaying masculine energy. So you cannot be afraid of, I'm going to hurt this woman, or I don't want to be a certain way because I feel uncomfortable and she's going to look at me some kind of way if I do that. Most women that trust you enough to be on a date and in a relationship with you are totally fine with you doing that. If you got to ask permission in the beginning and say, hey, babe, I want to kind of be a little more rough for you today, is that fine? If that's what you got to do to be able to actually do that method of being more physically dominant, then that's fine. But women want to feel that, okay? If there's any women watching this on YouTube or listening to this on Apple Podcasts, leave a comment down below and let guys know that it's perfectly fine for them to be more aggressive in the bedroom, okay? Sometimes they just need permission. Number 5, speak less. A man that is confident in himself and that knows and trusts himself to be in his essence does not need to say a lot of words. Think about back in the day when women would say they fall for the strong, silent type, okay? Because understand, women, when they're all in their heads about stuff and they're thinking about things, they're going to be the ones that are going to ramble on, in part because they have to talk out a bunch of stuff in order to get to a point where they feel comfortable, whatever it is they're trying to decide on. They're looking at you, though, as a man, you should already have it together, and you should not be so worrisome about decisions and stuff. So when they ask you questions or come to you with things, you should be able to get out a whole lot of information without having to say a whole lot. This is partially why I keep these podcasts so short, because I'm like, I can just give you guys information and be done. I don't need to spend an hour and a half on a podcast talking about this stuff when I can get this out in like 20 to 25 minutes at most, okay? So learn to speak less, and by doing so, women will start to see you as a person that's more confident in who they are, and the fact that you don't need to say so much to be able to show that confidence will give off that masculine energy that they are looking for. Number 6, take part in healthy forms of challenge, competition, aggression, and physicality. And also when you're doing these things, let her see your masculine responses in these areas, okay? I'll give you a perfect example, okay? I am not a sports guy. Now, if you are a sports guy, you're probably doing your part already. You're playing basketball, football, whatever. I'm not a guy that likes to do those stuff, but I'm a big fan of video games. I like video games that are hard. I like video games where it's competition, and I like video games where it may take me a while to figure out how to beat the next level or how to accomplish some kind of task. When I am playing these games around women that I'm dating or women that I'm just friends with, whatever, there are going to be times during these games where something happens that just frustrates the ever living crap out of me. And when that happens, I make it a point to be perfectly fine with showing my anger at that, whether I'm just like, oh, this stupid game, oh, I can't figure this out, ah! And sometimes one will be like, hey, like, are you okay? Everything's gonna be fine. I'm like, no. Part of me is like, no, I'm fine. I want to feel it. But the other part is that I understand that when I am showing my frustration in these moments, my anger, it's also letting myself display to the woman a form of my aggression. Instead of them, I'm showing off my male frustration of this situation, but at the same time, I'm doing it in the means like, I'm going to fight through this and I'm going to figure this out. It's frustrating right now, but I'm not going to stop this mission. And just displaying that kind of aggression, even if it's in a situation where it's like, it's a video game, it definitely is not a big deal in the grand scheme of things, but I'm definitely not going to try to hide that I'm frustrated at this point of the game or I'm angry at this part of the game or whatever, because women kind of like to know that that male aggression is there. So in doing these various tasks or putting yourself into these various competitions, part of the fun of that is being able to display certain levels of masculinity that women actually find attractive. So don't be ashamed if you're in these situations whereby you're showing a little anger or aggression, or you're pushing towards your goal of trying to win this thing. Women want to see that and get very, very turned on by it. Number 7, choose actions over words when showing affection. This is the thing that I think guys really fall back on and that they're not really great at, is that as you start to get to know a woman, you're thinking you need to tell her all the time that you care for her. So you start texting her stuff all the time, you start writing all these poems, you start trying to verbalize over and over again how much you love and care for her, yada, yada, yada. Understand, the verbalizing of care and affection is going to be seen by most women as a more feminine essence. Why? Because of the two sexes, they're traditionally ones that are a bit more wordy when it comes to having to emote their feelings or try to explain something that they're trying to get to, or all this other stuff, okay? So when you do that, it's not that it's bad to verbalize from time to time, but you got to be cautious about doing it too much, because it can start to display to a woman a more feminine essence that she's not going to like. And most women are looking for their guys to be doing actions in the first place. Mostly because it means that when you're doing an action, you're actually going through with something that displays to her that you really do care. So for example, a small thing, most women typically like when they complain about that men don't do the dishes enough, or like, they want their man to clean, the kitchen after they're done with a meal or whatever, okay? Well, understand, you saying I love you to a woman is cool, but washing some dishes for her when she hasn't asked you to, simply because you recognize that it's something she's going to want to get done and you want to just get out of the way, that action of being able to care by way of doing an action is going to show off more masculinity to her, because you're just going through and doing a thing which is going to display to her a lot more masculine qualities than telling her ever could, okay? So learn to try to look for areas in the relationship where you can do actions that show to her that you care, versus trying to talk it all the time. Leave the majority of talking out feelings and emotions and stuff to her. Number 8, learn to help build trust. And you can do this by following through on your word. Women really like when men say they're going to do a thing and then they do it, because as a man, you're only as good as your word. Not to say if you're a woman that you're not good as your word either, because women should be trustworthy, but women are looking for men that they can trust. The more they're able to build trust with the guy, the more they're going to also trust him in the bedroom. So if you're a guy that says you're going to do something for a woman and then you don't do the thing, now you're starting to look like a liar, like somebody she can't trust. And as a result, she is going to be less and less attracted to you. Whereas if you're able to keep your word and come through on things that you said you're going to do, that builds trust a lot faster. That makes her see you more as a leader, as a guy that when he makes a decision about something, he actually does it. And those are all masculine qualities that are going to make her more sexually attracted to you. Number 9, learn to lead and to set boundaries as it pertains to communication and respect, okay? Meaning this, women don't like the idea of being able to walk all over their man because then it makes them feel like they're the leader of the relationship. They're the ones wearing the pants. And that's them now having to take on the more masculine role. And if a woman is in her masculine, then she's definitely not going to want to be with you, because most women, even women that have more, we'll say, alpha qualities for the sake of argument, or more masculine tendencies, are usually more often than not still looking for a guy that can out-masculine them, okay? And that's a whole different conversation. But the point is that one of the ways that you can do this better is by setting boundaries for yourself. A man that knows what he likes and what he doesn't like is also one that knows what he's going to tolerate and not tolerate in a relationship. He's going to be a guy that when a woman tries to test him on certain things, he's going to be able to say, hey, I don't like this boundary. This boundary is being crossed right now. I expect these things from my significant other, these things that I don't expect, okay? For example, for me, one of the things that I'm big on is that I'm not a yeller. When I get into a discussion or a disagreement with a woman, I am not a person that's going to yell at them because I think they need to be heard. But also, I don't expect to be yelled, and I expect to be heard. So if I get into an argument with a woman and she starts yelling, I'm the one that's going to say, hey, stop. Look, I listen to whatever you have to say, but we are not going to cross this boundary, because if we do, I'm not going to feel like this is a viable conversation, and I'm going to leave. And you'd be surprised at just the respect level that women will have for you when you set that boundary. And also, a lot of women will be taken aback, like, oh my God, he's actually telling me what I can't do. He's saying that I have to respect him in these various things over here. Again, what's that doing? It's putting out qualities of leadership. It's putting out qualities of a guy that knows what he will and won't accept, a guy that has set boundaries, a guy that is going to say, I have a tolerance for this and not this. And that is surprisingly a thing that turns on women very, very much. It's a weird thing for us because we're thinking, I don't want them to think it's okay if they do this thing, but I don't want to hurt their feelings. And I have found that when you, on some level, don't really care if the boundary you're setting is going to hurt the woman's feelings or not, just the fact that you have an indifference to that, surprisingly, makes them respect you more and want to be in the bedroom with you more. Because women ultimately cannot go to bed with a man that they don't have respect for. I mean, they might be able to do it in the short term, but in terms of a long-term sexual connection and chemistry, it's not going to be there. Because if she doesn't respect you and she thinks that she can walk all over you, well, this is now a guy that is less than in terms of his masculinity, and she's going to be on to the next guy that is more masculine in his frame. And then the number 10 thing that you can do to be able to increase your sexual polarity is always reward a woman for being in her feminine. Because just like you want to build up your masculinity and you want her to see you as a masculine guy, a lot of women sometimes when they've dated so many guys that have been in their feminine, that they oftentimes get stuck in the masculine role. So then they come to you and they're still trying to do things like lead you places or try to hold your hand in the way that's leading things more often, or trying to order for you on a menu. And so you have to kind of step in and not allow her to do those things, but also you have to reward her at the times when she is being feminine, because you can't ultimately change somebody through punishment. On some level you can, but really it's more of like the more you reward a person, the more they're going to want to do those things to keep getting those rewards. So when the woman you're with is showing off feminine qualities, you can say, hey, babe, I just want you to know I really appreciate the way you did this thing in the bedroom, or the way you cooked this meal, or the way you wore that dress, or I like how you look in your lingerie, you're really, really sexy. Like, as you start to reward those things, you're going to find that the women are going to be so happy for getting that attention, because again, part of the feminine energy is being able to seek out positive affection. So when you do those things, what's going to happen is she's going to want to do more of those things, and that's going to allow her to get sucked more into her feminine. And the fact that you're rewarding it means that you are seeing her femininity as a positive thing while not taking away from the things that she brings into the relationship. And that in and of itself will also allow the sexual polarity to thrive, because the more she's in her feminine and the more you're in your masculine energy, the more that those things are going to be able to come together in the bedroom harmoniously and be able to have a very good time together. So hopefully this has helped you figure out some ways that you can better your sexual polarity with the person that you're with. And hey, I'm always open to hearing what kind of things you guys like to try or do in order to increase that. Again, if you're on my YouTube page, you can leave comments down below. You can write to me at HarryWilmington@gmail.com and talk about what are some of the things that you think could be beneficial to know when trying to improve your sexual polarity with a woman. But for those of you guys that have been struggling with that, hopefully this will start you off on the right path. Thank you for watching this episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show. If you found the info in this episode to be helpful, please show your support by clicking on the tip jar tab, the link of which can be found at the website and in the description below. While there, you can also download a free copy of my ebook, Texting Like a Boss, where you'll learn the kinds of texts that really attract women. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on this episode, and catch more episodes right here on the YouTube channel or wherever podcasts can be found. In the meantime, be sure to check out more of these shows on this channel so you too can learn how to date as your introverted self while still getting your alone time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.